What is going on, everyone? Hope you're doing well out there. Your Los Angeles Dodgers are on a roll right now. They're 94-53. They're going to either be a game and a half or a game back, it's looking like, of the San Francisco Giants. We'll keep you updated on the score as we record. The Dodgers have won 6 games straight. They've clinched their ticket to the postseason. Today, we're joined by Chris Camello. You might know him as the host of Camello's Corner and the Showtime Forum. And he's also a reporter for Nightcast Media. Thank you so much, Chris, for joining us today. How's everything going for you?
Doing well, man. Doing well. Thanks for having me on. Quite the intro. Your check is in the mail.
Well, thank you. David Rosenthal, what's been going on? I know the last time we talked, you were a little bitter, but the Dodgers haven't lost straight. They haven't lost.
Yeah, I'm doing good. The Dodgers can make me bitter from time to time, but I think I'm entitled to that. Doing much better. They won 6 in a row. Looking like they're going to be one back, barring a Giants comeback in today's game. So more optimistic than normal, honestly. But we'll see. I think this weekend is going to be the key, honestly. You got Dodgers taking on the Reds and then the Giants taking on the Braves. So I think this is going to be the weekend where we kind of decide and see what happens.
Yeah, we'll see. The Dodgers swept the San Diego Padres for the second time in a row, and then they swept the last place Arizona Diamondbacks. But Jake Reiner, what are your early takeaways that you want to get started on the show?
I can already sense myself getting angry for the 1-game playoff for the wild card because the way it's set up is just absolutely ridiculous. I mean, in no other sport do you see the teams with the 2 best records in the entire sport having to potentially face a 1-game elimination. I mean, at no other point in any other sport do you see that. Now, granted, with football, it's a 1-game elimination kind of setup there, but at least if you have the best record, you get a bye and there's some sort of perks there. But in baseball, the way it's set up is just atrocious. I think they should go, the way that basketball goes, where you have certain, different divisions, but ultimately it's the best 8 teams in each conference. And then you basically reseed depending on who has the best record. And then you don't have this, 1-game elimination where one of the best teams could get knocked out of the playoffs. And, you could go a step further to say that it's super unfair. Let's say the Dodgers advance or the Giants advance, then those 2 teams are playing each other in the division series, which you don't want to see that in the first round either. So
yep.
I'm just getting angry over here.
It's a great point, Jake. And like I've pointed out to you guys, the only other scenario that comes close to what the Dodgers and the Giants are going through was back in 2018. Remember, the Boston Red Sox won 108 games. The second best team that year in the American League was the New York Yankees, who won 100 games. Yankees had to take on the Oakland A's in the wild card game. What was their reward? Taking on the Boston Red Sox in the divisional round. And at the time, I remember people saying there has to be a stipulation that Major League Baseball should explore should a situation like this arise again. It didn't happen in 2019, 2020. There were more teams in the playoffs because of the pandemic. Remember, everyone had to play that crazy 3-game wild card round, and then whoever won that went on to the NLDS. But now this situation rears its ugly head again. And it's like, there has to be a stipulation where it goes, I agree, Jake, by record, not so much about, well, these are the 2 wild card teams. That's how we're going to do it. There has to be some fine print on that, because otherwise a really good team is going to get knocked out potentially sooner than they should get it. Look at the Braves, for example. They're what, like 6-7 games above 500, and they got a 5.5 game lead, and they're going to get home field in a potential first round matchup. That doesn't make sense.
Dodgers would be up 14 games in that division.
Yeah.
And it's there's other divisions that are even higher.
Look at Chicago White Sox
Yep.
in the AL Central.
Yep. But it's, they've talked about the proposal of maybe next year with the new CBA making 7 teams in each league make the playoffs, where the first team would get the bye and then the other 6 would play, and then the bracket would go to the NLDS. Basically, it would be very Dodgers to get the last wild card ever as a 100+ win team and lose in the first round of the wild card. It would be very Dodgers. Right. But I'll get into it later. I think even if we get in the wild card game, I'm not scared of St. Louis and I'm not scared of Cincinnati. I'm just not.
And those are good points. And one more thing I wanted to point out to you guys. This is not, I know we think this is new because the Dodgers have been division winners. They have had situations like this where it was win and move on. Game 163, 2018 against the Colorado Rockies. A win got you home field against the Atlanta Braves. A loss got you into the wild card game on the road in Chicago. And guess what? Walker Buehler went out there, did his thing at the Ravine. They knocked out Colorado. 2018, Game 7, winner goes on to the World Series. Buehler again comes through. Bellinger and Puig with big hits. And then, of course, who could forget last year being down 3-1? Bellinger and Kike Hernandez come through with big home runs, and it was a one-game situation. Win, and you move on to the World Series. So this is not new, where the Dodgers would be in a corner where it's like you win or you're out sort of a thing. So that's why I think in a wild card situation, yes, it's not ideal. You have no room for error, but that's when this team has really come to play and actually played some of their best baseball and had some of their most clutch moments.
I still say the Dodgers will win this division. I like where we are. As Dave Roberts would say, I like them in that spot.
Yeah.
I want to start the show off by talking about Max Muncy, who's now up to 34 home runs on the season. He's just one behind tying his career high, which he achieved twice in 2018 and 2019. He's got 5 big bombs in the month of September. And the thing that seems to help rejuvenate the bat is borrowing his teammate Albert Pujols' bat.
Yeah, that was really cool to see. And I actually tuned in a little too late, and I thought it was this like really cool, like ninja spy, like being like, oh my God, the knob of the bat says 55. It must be Pujols' bat. Did he hit a home run with Pujols? And I, obviously figured it out from everyone commenting on my tweet there. But yeah, that was just such a cool moment. And for Max Muncy to hit 2 home runs with that bat is extra special. I mean, he has been our offensive MVP throughout the entire year, and he continues to carry. And I will say, point out again, I predicted that he would have 30 plus home runs, over 100 RBIs. I just felt that last year just didn't really match with what we know Muncy's capable of. And so this year has been, really, really special for him.
He's gotten hot the last 15 days too. He was struggling there for about 3 to 4 weeks, hitting under 200, OPS in the 600s. Last 15 days, his OPS is near 800. His average is up 30 points compared to what it was 30 days ago. He's hitting home runs. He's barreling the ball. He's smiling more, and he looks good. He looks very good. He's heating up at the perfect time.
Definitely. The one thing I've said about Max Muncy this entire season is he is a stabilizing force in that lineup, a guy who can drive in runs, hit home runs, kind of an old school first baseman when you think about it. You remember back in the 90s, early 2000s, you had the Frank Thomases, the Albert Pujols in his younger days, of course, with the Cardinals, guys that in a lineup were going to do 2 things. They were going to mash and they were going to drive in runs. They weren't going to, Jim Thome, of course. I mean, Paul Konerko. I mean, the list goes on and on. But the one aspect I think about Muncy is, yes, he's going to struggle, but when he sees a pitch, he ain't going to miss very often. And that's the one thing that hasn't really been talked about much is despite those struggles, I think he had a stretch of 2 for 29. And guess what? 2 of those hits probably left the yard. He's still going to walk. He's still going to have good at bats. He's still going to grind the opposing pitcher out. And that's really all you ask for. A lot of times when guys struggle, they're going to press. They're going to swing early. They're going to try to force it. Muncy's patience really hasn't wavered much, even amidst his struggles. I think he deserves to be a National League MVP finalist this year. And I'm glad to see he has bounced back this year after a really poor 2020. I'm glad you guys pointed that out.
Max Muncy leads the team with a 147 WRC plus weighted runs created. Will Smith is second, 143. Any guesses who's third on the Dodgers in that category?
For the season?
Yeah, for the season.
I mean, probably Mookie Betts, no?
There it is. Mookie Betts, 142. Ever since Dave Roberts moved him back into the leadoff role, he's been on a tear. He's 10 for his last 26. That's a 385 batting average. And he's reached 18 bags. He's been on fire. Earlier in the season, a lot of people questioned what happened to his pop, his power. Well, he's up to 21 home runs now. He's got 111 hits, and the WAR is up there too. I'm not going to say he's 2018 Mookie Betts, where everything is just going his way and he's perfect. But given the circumstances of the bad hip and other little nagging injuries, he's been a damn good player this season.
I love it when Dave Roberts makes the obvious move. Like it makes my day. I don't like it when he tries to get cute or tricky. And this was one of those moves that just made all the sense in the world. We talked about 2020. Remember at the beginning of 2020 when he was experimenting, having Muncy lead off and Mookie Betts bat second, and it just wasn't working out. And then as soon as he put Mookie in the leadoff spot, he just figured it out. He was a 2018 MVP as a leadoff hitter. So we got to keep that in mind. We got to remember that the next time they want to experiment. And with Trey Turner, he's been so good. It doesn't really matter where you put him in the lineup. So I don't mind him hitting third with Mookie Betts leading off. And the other cool thing is that Mookie's actually stealing bases, which is something that he didn't do in the beginning part of the season. Maybe, his injuries, maybe he's feeling a little healthier, but he definitely is, he's got that speed back. And, once he has that, look out.
He looks as good as he's looked all year, period. His OPS is 910 the last 15 games. He's hitting the ball. He's not just hitting homers, but he's hitting doubles. He's not just hitting, home run or bust. He's getting on base. Like you guys said, leadoff is the spot for him. I don't love Trey Turner in the 3 hole. If it was up to me, I'd probably put him in the 2 spot, follow it up with Muncy, Smith, Turner in some order, Seager. But look, Trey Turner, you can put him anywhere in the lineup and it still work out. Whereas I don't love Mookie hitting third either. I like him at the top, either 1 or 2. So they'll figure it out. Frankly, it doesn't matter as long as these guys keep hitting. Doesn't matter where they are in the lineup.
Oh, I agree. When I saw the acquisition of Trey Turner and with Mookie, I felt 1 and 2 in some combination. Yeah. Put Mookie in leadoff spot or Trey Turner, and then whoever isn't hitting leadoff, put them in the 2 hole, followed by Justin Turner, Max Muncy, Seager, Smith, etc., Pollock, and then of course Taylor and Bellinger. I kind of wanted to see a dynamic that Charlie Manuel used to do with the Phillies. Remember, it used to be Jimmy Rollins at the leadoff spot, followed by Victorino, Utley, Howard, Worth, Burrell, etc. I wanted to see something like that, but Dave has gotten a little bit more creative. He likes the right, left. Trey Turner seems to be responding well at that 3 spot. So what's not broke, don't fix it. And I like what we're seeing now. And Mookie seems to be really getting back to his old self. And like you said, Jake, the fact that he's healthier, that hip seems to be a lot better. He just seems to be in a better place physically and mentally. We could say the same thing about Corey Seager. We could say the same thing about a lot of these players who have had really difficult seasons. But now I think they see the light at the end of the tunnel. They see the finish line. They're like, you know what? Let's try to go all out. Let's treat this month like October. And they basically have. Forget the competition. You still have to go out there and get 27 outs. You still got to go out there and be 1 run better than the other team. And so far, they've been able to do that. And the Ice Tray, man, that's what I've been calling him, the Ice Tray. I hate to steal that nickname away from Trae Young in Atlanta, but you know what? Trey Turner has been as smooth and as cold as ice at times. He's been fantastic. What a pickup.
This will make David happy. They've been grooming this man in the outfield down in AAA. They recalled him about a week ago. Ever since they recalled Gavin Lux from OKC, he's 7 for 17. That's a .412 batting average, and he has a .524 on base percentage. He's filled the void when Chris Taylor went down with an injury, as well as AJ Pollock. David, the floor is yours on the Gavin Lux show.
Yeah, I sound like a broken record, but he's got the talent. He's always had the talent. Whenever he's struggled, it's come down to one thing, and that's confidence. When he's not confident, he's not going to succeed. And what you're seeing now is he's a confident player in the batter's box. The defense in left field could use some work. He's almost killed a couple of our outfielders, but it'll improve. But in the batter's box, he looks like he knows he's going to get on base. And frankly, that's exactly what he's been doing, whether it's getting singles, doubles, or walking, and then utilizing his speed. We saw the other night, I think he stretched a single into a double, tagged up, and then tagged up again. So he's a weapon. It's just a matter of confidence for him. That's literally all it comes down to. All he's got to do is be confident. And if he's confident, you're going to see the results. You're not the number 2 overall prospect in baseball for no reason. You're just not.
All right. Anything else on Lux? Yeah, I'm sorry, Jake. I was waiting for you to go there that time, but let me just jump in on this. The one thing I've noticed about Gavin Lux, when he's had successes, it's been because he's starting every day. And whether that's at shortstop or left field, when he is starting every day, that's when he's been more productive. He has not been very good as a part-time player or a late game substitution. When Corey Seager was out that first month that he was gone with that broken wrist, I thought Lux played some of his best baseball as a Dodger. Clutch hits, even solid defensively at times. When he's been a part-time player, it's when he's really struggled. Now, I don't think he'll ever be a great defensive player. You only hope he could be a somewhat average defensive player. But then again, we've seen guys make improvements as their career goes on. See Max Muncy. Max Muncy did not come in as a good defensive player at all. And now you could say his defense is not only average, maybe even above average, and he could play multiple positions. So Lux, you're kind of hoping that same thing. Can he play shortstop a little bit? Can he play left field a little bit? Can he be good enough in those spots? I'm not saying he's got to go out there and be a Gold Glover by any means. Just go out there, make the easy play, get your reps in. And like you said, David, don't kill or at least maim any of our other outfielders like Chris Taylor or Cody Bellinger. But outside of that, I'm glad to see this kid coming into his own. It takes time to really get that confidence as a baseball player. Even if you are a highly touted prospect, you're coming up with the big boys. You're going to have a lot of lows, and it's how you respond to that reveals your true character and who you are as a baseball player. And if he could just work on that, the consistency, grinding out at bats, putting in the reps, and don't get down when things get hard, he's going to be fine. He's going to be fine.
All right. Last player I just wanted to spotlight real quick, and then we have a question from the audience. Justin Turner. He's up to 25 home runs. He's been kind of sneaky hot lately, and this is the perfect time of the year for him to roll into October. You know, his career high is 27 home runs. He did that twice. Do you think he can get to 27 home runs or surpass that once again? Don't know, but I like what I've been seeing from Justin Turner as of late.
I also just love all of our old guys just being elite. Like Justin Turner, Kenley Jansen, Kershaw came back off the IL. Looked like he didn't miss any time. Yep. This has been such a great sight to see. And what a, return on investment from the Dodgers in Justin Turner. A lot of people in the offseason, Kevin was saying that maybe it was time to let him go, or he could live without him, or he said something to that effect. But I've always trusted Justin Turner. He's probably one of my favorite Dodgers on the team, and he's showing why he deserves to be there still. And he has been incredible throughout the season. But like you said, he's been hot. It feels like every time you need a home run, he's there to provide that for you. So I couldn't be happier with the way Justin Turner's been playing. I couldn't be happier with the way Corey Seager's been playing. We know the offense is there, but the defense has been solid too. I'll be, the first one to say that. It was one thing that I was really harping on him for forever, but pretty, as recently as this year. But the defense has been solid. It still scares me to death every time he goes after a ball backhanded, but that's just his style. And the only guy that I'm still concerned with is Cody Bellinger. And I'll just say really briefly, I'm not sure how he's hitting in BP, but man, he is missing a lot of balls that are just right down the middle, or seemingly balls that he would love to hit, and he's just not hitting them. And it just makes absolutely no sense. I wonder if he's, mashing in batting practice or not, but I guess it doesn't really matter when you're not really hitting in the game. So he's really the only one that I'm concerned about with this offense.
Justin Turner is the soul of this team. We've said it for years. I talked about Muncy being a stabilizing force this season for the Dodgers. Justin Turner has been the stabilizing force for this Dodger team, really the last 5 seasons. When he is on and he goes, guess what? The rest of the team is going to go. He's got power. He could drive the ball into the gaps. He's had a couple of big time game winning hits. Yeah. The defense has kind of waned. He's not the third baseman that he once was 2, 3, 4 years ago, but he's still a damn good defensive third baseman. And you just love the steady as she goes presence. It just seems like in his sleep, he's going to give you 20 to 23 home runs, 75 to 85 runs batted in, and he's going to hover around 300. And guess what? When the postseason comes around, that is when he's going to come up with another clutch hit for you. So I love what JT has done. I was entertaining the thought, and I know you guys are probably going to crush me for this. I said, if he walks, would it be the worst thing in the world knowing you got Eddie Rios ready to go to maybe take over third base? Man, oh man, was I wrong on that. But I'm glad I was. Rios had an awful season. Then he had the torn labrum that required season-ending surgery. Where would the Dodgers be without Justin Turner this season? And another great thing is he's finally been able to stay healthy. No real hamstring issues. No, balls off the wrist that's forced him to miss significant time. So it's been great to see him really kind of carry out his great legacy over these last 7 years as being one of the most prolific infielders and hitters in the game. So really like what I've seen from JT. And like you said, Jake, Bellinger is the last piece of this puzzle as far as the offense goes, because if he could try to get himself on track these next 2 weeks, I'm not even saying going from 160 to 250, 160 to 200, drive in some runs, get on base, bunt your way aboard like Brandon Belt did last night. The shift was to the right. Guess what? I'm going to have a running bunt and try to use my wheels to get on base. Do little things like that, just like a struggling shooter. Once you see the ball go through the net with a free throw or a layup, it's going to open up other things for this guy. And it's just been a nightmare season for Belly. And I just hope he gets on track in time. But even if he doesn't, you got Taylor and Pollock hopefully coming back where maybe you could, hey, Belly, why don't you sit this game out,
Yeah, one thing on Bellinger real quick is he's changed his approach and he's changed his stance. He's made slight adjustments to his stance. He's changed his bat. He's changed his hand placement on the bat. He's choking up a little bit more on the bat. And we've seen, albeit very minimal, but we've seen somewhat of an improvement. He's making productive outs. He's seeing more pitches in the at bat. He's not just popping up on the first pitch of these at bats anymore. It's extremely tough to change your stance at all, and let alone in the middle of a season. It's not going to be just back to 2019 MVP version. So all we need from him is basically what he's been doing. Frankly, productive outs, productive at bats. You're going to hit 7th or 8th in the lineup. We're not going to expect huge things out of you. Just have some productive at bats. That's all they're asking from him this year. And I think we've seen over the last week, I think we've seen that.
I'll take the lead on this question. It's from our good friend, Dusty Baker TV. He's asking us, why do the Dodgers make me feel confident 1 week and then depressed the next? So a week ago, the Dodgers, they had a bad road trip. 3 wins, 4 losses, a little bit discouraged. But, for the most part on my end, this team has not really discouraged me one bit. I could date probably back to April and May. I was probably a little disappointed with their slow start. But you got to remember, they were playing guys like DJ Peters, Luke Raley, Sheldon Noisy. They were experimenting with some bullpen guys. Vesia wasn't ready. Clevenger had some off days. The list goes on. My point is, let's go back to where we are right now. The Dodgers have 94 wins. To put that in perspective, in 2017, September 15th, of 2017, the Dodgers that team had 95 wins. So you're telling me that this team is just 1 game behind that team's pace, given all the injuries and whatever BS has gone our way this season? You guys can disagree if you want or put your perspective into things, but I think we've been having a fantastic season. We'll go more in depth in the pitching in a little bit. But all things aside, I think this is one of the best Dodgers teams we've had in a long time. And I know a week ago, Jake asked, does it feel like we really had a great month of August? And I think he kind of was gelling September into that blend. But I straight up said, yeah, I remember the month of August going really well because the Dodgers, I think, went 21-6. I remember sweeping the Braves. I remember handing it to the Padres. The list goes on. And there are bad series. They're going to have a few, but that's baseball for you. It's a long season. They're not going to win 20 games straight. They're going to have 3-game losing streaks, etc. But it's a marathon, not a sprint.
Since you mentioned my name, I'll respond. What I think, and I've had time to think about this, and I've been one of the more critical fans, I guess you could say, of this particular 2021 team. You got to remember that how long has it been since the Dodgers really had any type of competition in the NL West? Let's just forget 2018 for a minute, because that was a weird year. But if you look over the last decade or so, the Dodgers really haven't had any real competition challenging them for the division. And I think the only reason we looked at this team negatively was because the Giants were doing freakish things on their side of the ball. And I think that's the only reason why we have been as critical as we've been, because as good as the Dodgers have been, they've still needed to be better than they are to beat the Giants. And that's a weird situation for this generation of Dodgers fans to be a part of. I remember even before this stretch with Dave Roberts and Don Mattingly a little bit, where we would have losing seasons and we would have really mediocre 80-win teams or teams that would barely make the playoffs. Like we got to remember those times and how spoiled we've been since they've been on this insane run of 9 straight postseason appearances, 8 straight division titles. That we just all have to put that into perspective, including myself, because I remember, calling this team out. I put out a tweet a few weeks ago that it just didn't feel like our year. It just didn't feel like this team was going to be able to do it. And I hope I'm wrong about that. I'm feeling a little more confident than I was a few weeks ago, but I think as Dodgers fans, we just need to put everything into context.
Yeah, I think that those are great points. Another aspect, Jake, I think we need to talk about was the absurdly high expectations that this team had coming into the 21 season. They're going to win 115 games. They're going to win 120 games. And I said to myself, okay, everybody just pump the brakes a little bit. It's a long season. They're coming off of a championship, and everything is based on what again? Health. Because I look at the Lakers in another sport. Everyone was expecting them to be the number 1 team in the Western Conference. What we didn't account for were the injuries and how that could take a toll on you, especially when you're missing some of your best guys. So the Dodgers have been without a healthy Mookie. They've been without a healthy Corey Seager. Bellinger missed all that time. Plus he was coming off the shoulder surgery. Trevor Bauer with his off the field issues. Kershaw went down. Dustin May, you lost him for the season. Gonsolin has not been the same. You didn't have certain relievers in there like Joe Kelly. Knebel missed 3 months. So, everybody at one aspect or another seemed to go down, and I'm sure I'm leaving other guys out. Combine that with the fact that you have a target on your back because you are the champs. The hunters become the hunted. And the fact that the Giants were doing so well and the Padres were having a lot of success early on in the season, it made everybody more anxious, more frustrated, more angry, because on the one hand, it's like, we don't really have a lot of room for error because all these teams are coming after us, especially in our own division. And 2, it's like, man, these guys are better than this. We shouldn't be losing 3 out of the 4 to the Miami Marlins. We shouldn't be sweeping the Padres and then come back home and lose 2 out of 3 to the Rockies. But hey, that's baseball for you. That's just the nature of the beast. Look at the Yankees. They won 13 in a row. People didn't think they were going to lose another game. Guess what? They ended up losing like 6 out of their next 7. That is the dynamic of baseball. It is a roller coaster ride. There are times you're going to be the hottest team for weeks, maybe even the whole month. And then other months where, guess what? You're going to be 2 for August. That is the nature of the game. So myself included, I agree with you, Jake. I've been hard on them as well. And they've given up a lot of games that they should have won, especially in extra innings. But when you still look back, 94 and 53,
you take that every time. You
take that every time considering what they've gone through. So all the criticisms of players, coaches, Dave Roberts, Andrew Friedman, a lot of people are like, what's Friedman doing? He's not doing anything. Give it time. Be patient, because things happen when they're supposed to happen, not necessarily when we want them to happen.
Yeah. Vegas, the over-under, I believe, was 103, and it's looking like Vegas might win that one because it looks like the Dodgers are on a 103 win pace. That would be a success at this rate. Last thing I wanted to say is keep in mind the Dodgers have used 36 different major league pitchers on their roster this season. That is just bonkers. And they've managed, most of them have managed to do a pretty damn good job. Clayton Kershaw made his return off the IL. He had not pitched for the Dodgers since July 3rd against the Nationals. Well, he looked pretty good in his return. Went 4 1/3 innings, gave up 4 hits, 1 earned run, 5 strikeouts through 50 pitches. Now that the Dodgers have a 5-man rotation once again, it's just really nice to see Clayton Kershaw back.
Yeah. It's also nice to see a 5-man rotation. Jesus, it's taken a long time. And I know that we'll probably see, more bullpen games from here on out, but it's just so much better without that bullpen game. It really is. I've hated that since the beginning, and I'm happy to see Kershaw pitch well. It was cool to see Matt Stafford in the stands cheering on his boy after a huge win with the Rams taking out the Bears. Pretty cool to be an LA sports fan at this particular moment. And then Tony Gonsolin too has looked a lot sharper and has been able to give Dave Roberts a lot more innings than I think he expected him to. So to have those guys back is just huge.
I'm excited that Kershaw's back, and he looked pretty damn good. Given the circumstances, the velo wasn't ideal, but it also wasn't bad. First outing back, they didn't push him too hard. He went 4 1/3, 50 pitches. So I'd like to see his next start get to 5 innings for sure, maybe 70 pitches. Because if you're going to use him in the playoffs, there's no time to do a slow burn here on the ramp up. You got to go. You can't go from 50 pitches to 55 pitches his next outing, or 60. You got to get this up to, close to 100 within the next 2 weeks. His next, two starts probably. And I'm sure he'll be the one to tell you that. But on the topic of the bullpen games, as unenjoyable as they are, they've actually been working way more often than they haven't.
I'm not saying that they've been unsuccessful. I'm just saying the domino effect of using all your bullpen in one game sets up. That's all I'm saying. But
I completely agree. But if Kershaw, maybe doesn't get to 100 pitches, if he can give you 4 innings in the playoffs of 1 run or shutout ball, you take that every day of the week. Yeah. Because they've shown that over this year they can win these bullpen games. And if you have a bulk guy like Clayton Kershaw who can give you 4 innings, maybe you use Gonsolin or Mitch White to tandem, maybe for 1 or 2 more innings there, and then you go to high leverage guys like Vesia, Trinan, and Jansen. That's a game right there. That is a blueprint for a win, as long as these guys execute. So you know what you're going to get from Buehler. You know what you're going to get from Scherzer, which is like the best pitcher of all time right now. And then Julio Urias, who has 18 wins on the year and has looked good. So they got the pieces. They have the pieces. And the bullpen game, let's say you get into the 7-game series, you need that 4th starter. You're not going to be affected by the bullpen game because you're going to get innings from Buehler, Scherzer, and Urias.
Yeah, and I talked about Bellinger being the final piece of the Dodger offense. Well, Clayton Kershaw, I've been saying this for weeks, is the final piece of the Dodger rotation. It's great to see him back, and what a luxury. A former Cy Young Award winner, a former MVP to be your Game 4 starter. I mean, come on, man.
Hall of Famer too.
Yeah, a Hall of Famer future. I mean, probably him and Max Scherzer, probably 1 and 2 of the best pitchers of the last 10 years. I mean, let's just call it what it is. These 2 guys have been the model of consistency for future aces to come up behind them, and still in their 30s, early to mid 30s. And I know Scherzer's actually now in his late 30s, but he's just been tremendous. And David, you took the words right out of my mouth. If Clayton Kershaw can give you 4 innings, then you could turn it over to Gonsolin for 1 or 2 innings, or depending on the matchup, turn it over to David Price for an inning or 2. I know Price, wasn't really sharp in his lone outing against the Arizona Diamondbacks, but still a guy that could eat up innings. And if he's got it rolling, he could still get guys out. So then you turn it over to the Joe Kellys, the Bickfords, the Vesias, Trinan, et cetera, Kenley Jansen in the 9th inning. But Clayton Kershaw as that 4th starter, I mean, that's huge right there. And Clayton's going to want to go out there, especially after seeing those other 3 guys in a series, hopefully a series. And he sees those guys do well. He's going to be like, oh, hell no. I'm going to make you guys remember who the heck I am. Just like Kevin Durant once said, I'm still Kevin Durant. I want to see Kershaw look at a reporter and say, hey, I'm still Clayton Kershaw.
Yeah, I agree.
That'd be awesome.
I agree with all your guys' points. I'm pretty fired up for this question, so I want to get this one going. The dude is 63 asks, what is it going to take to keep Max Scherzer in LA? Well, for me, he is the number 1 priority. The number 1. You pay him whatever he asks. He's given me flashbacks to Randy Johnson when he signed with the Arizona Diamondbacks. I believe Johnson himself was 36 or 37. And we know the rest of the story. Won multiple Cy Youngs, 2001 World Series MVP. Scherzer is better than I could have ever imagined. 8 starts with the Dodgers now. He's 6-0, an 0.88 ERA, an 0.66.7 WHIP. He has the record for the lowest ERA in the modern era, since they've been keeping track of the ERA stat, for a pitcher's first 8 starts with the team. And I already said an 0.88. Out of nowhere now, he is the leading Cy Young Award contender. He has the best ERA overall with a 2.17 ERA. And in his last start, he took a perfect game into the 8th inning. Unfortunately, Eric Hosmer broke it up, but it was against the Padres, who have a respectable lineup. He's been mowing down every team. He's a force out there. I thought Buehler was the number 1 guy, but Mad Max is making a statement, and he might have to be our game 1 starter, whatever round it is, because he's doing all the right things right now.
Well, I'm glad you mentioned that, because I am now conflicted, because I don't know how I would set it up if the Dodgers, for the sake of argument, have to go for a 1-game wild card playoff. Do you start Buehler in that game? I think all of us, if you asked us at the beginning of the season, I mean, obviously we didn't have Scherzer then, but even when we got Scherzer, I think all of us were in agreement that it should be Buehler still. But I don't know. I mean, you need to win that game. And obviously this is an embarrassment of riches type of thing where you can't go wrong with either one, but who would you guys go with at this point? I think it has to be Scherzer.
Wild card game, I'm still going Buehler. I'm sorry. Scherzer's definitely been the guy, but fate of the universe on the line, I want Walker Buehler.
Yeah, I think Buehler is a solid choice, but also too, don't forget what Dave Martinez did in the 2019 wild card game. I want to say Max Scherzer started that game and Strasburg finished it out. And considering now that you have a healthy Clayton Kershaw, if you want to go that route and burn both of those guys in the wild card game, Julio Urias as a game 1 starter and then Kershaw as a game 2 starter wouldn't be the worst dynamic in the world. And then guess what? Potentially you have Buehler and Scherzer to close it out for you in that series. So I think you could theoretically use both. And I think that's an avenue Dave might want to consider, because it did work for the Nats in 2019.
I just don't want to see Kershaw out of the bullpen.
We won't. I really
pick another starter other than him, and I'm good with that.
Jake still has PTSD from 2019.
Exactly, I do.
I think you could see Julio Urias coming out of the bullpen in the wild card game.
That's what I would do.
I would not sleep on that possibility.
Yeah, that's what I would do as well. We don't know what Buehler's like out of the bullpen, so
don't want to test it in that moment.
Right, but Scherzer does have experience coming out of the pen.
Yeah,
true.
Yeah, I think if they were to do that, they would start Buehler and then go to Scherzer.
Yeah, and also too, just to let you guys know about the contract situation, keep this name in mind. Lance Lynn just got a 2-year extension from the White Sox, 2 for $38.5 million. I think in order to keep Scherzer and Dodger blue, what it's going to take to get Max Scherzer back in LA and keep him in Dodger blue, it's going to take between a 2-year deal between $50 and $60 million, in my opinion. And one of the X factors to keeping Scherzer in LA is going to be the ability to get out from underneath the Bauer contract. Now, Bauer's got a $45 million player option, not team option, player option for the 22 season. Now, obviously, all of that is based on what happens with the investigation from the MLB and LA County, if charges are going to be pressed and whatnot. Don't want to get too deep into that. But if you could somehow get out from underneath that contract and use those potential resources to keep Max Scherzer and Dodger blue, kind of like what Samuel L. Jackson did in Jackie Brown, I want to take that $100,000 bond from Beaumont and move it right along to Jackie. That's what the Dodgers, I'm sure, want to do. So I would love to see Mad Max finish out his career as a Dodger, but who knows, because he may end up leading the starting pitching free agent market this winter, where a lot of teams may decide to throw a lot of money and even years at him. So, but that's the number I came up with, guys.
Oh, I absolutely agree. I think it's going to take a minimum of $30 million annually to keep Max Scherzer back in Los Angeles. It could be a 2-year deal. It could be a 3-year deal. I already compared him to Randy Johnson earlier, and just the way he's pitching right now, it looks like he has a good 3 or 4 years left in him. And Dodger fans are going to hate me for saying this, but if Clayton Kershaw and Max Scherzer demand the same contract and we don't get off the hook from Trevor Bauer for whatever reason, I'm really sorry, Clayton Kershaw, but Max Scherzer, the money is yours.
All right. So here's where I stand with this. Trevor Bauer is going to get suspended. I don't know how long, but that asshole is going to get suspended for something. I think it'll be for a season. I do think it'll be for a full season, at least. There has been precedent, and that's about what the precedent is. So that frees up about $40 million, whatever it is. Do I think Clayton Kershaw is going to ask for $30 million a year again? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. I don't know how many times I have to say this. I don't know how many on different platforms and social on Twitter and using my voice. This dude's made close to $300 million on the field, not including endorsements. He's not going to penny pinch the Dodgers if him taking a slight discount, not a huge discount, but a slight discount, let's say $20 million to keep Max Scherzer. I can guarantee you he's going to do that. I can literally guarantee you he's going to do that. He's not going to penny pinch over $5 to $10 million. Look, these Dodgers owners can get creative with how they want to pay him. They can do some other kind of stuff where it's something involved with the team. That's just what super rich people do to help out their super rich friends. So look, they're not going to lose Max Scherzer because Clayton Kershaw is going to ask for $30 million a year. That's not happening. Period. Now, if you get Corey Seager's contract involved and want to pay him, that's a different story. But if it's between Scherzer and Kershaw, and they're in communication with each other as they have been all year, they've been having a bromance with their post-game quotes and pre-game quotes since they've been teammates. You got Scherzer gushing on Kershaw and Kershaw gushing on Scherzer. Scherzer's indicated that he wants to stay. So look, if they want to stay, they'll stay. And I can tell you one other thing, and I'll shut up. Clayton Kershaw's not thrown one pitch for another team his entire career. He will retire a Dodger, period.
And also, you were talking about them gushing about each other. Max Scherzer did say that he wants to see Kershaw get his 3,000th strikeout. He wants to be there for that. So read into that with what you however you want to. But it would be cool to see Scherzer return, Kershaw return, and Seager return. I'm not sure if all of that is feasible, but again, it is based on what happens with Trevor Bauer. I will say this though, and I said it on Twitter. I'm all in on Corey Seager. I love him. And I think Kevin's made me a lifer, a Corey Seager lifer, a real believer in him. The way he swings the bat is just far and away better than most people in Major League Baseball. He's one of the best hitters in the game. And he's proven that he can stay healthy. If he has control over it. It was a little bit of a touch and go there at 2018. I didn't know if he would ever be the same, but what he did in the postseason for 2020, what he did during the season in 2020 and getting us a World Series title. I mean, I will never slander him again from here on out. His defense is a little sus, but even still coming back off the injury, he's been great. And yeah, I would pay Corey Seager big bucks to stay in LA. I would love to see that. I'd love to see him and Trey Turner in LA for a long time. That would be cool.
Agreed. Yeah, I'll save my Seager stuff because we actually have a question about that. So, but we'll get to him in a few minutes. I still think Clayton Kershaw, $25 million is what it's going to take a year to keep him in Los Angeles. I think he's earned that right. I do think that is a slight discount from what his market value could be. But that's a whole offseason story that just remains to be seen. And the last thing I want to just add with Scherzer, obviously he picked up his 3,000th career strikeout in Los Angeles, which I didn't know was a harder feat than getting 3,000 career hits. So that's really impressive as a pitcher. And lastly, he loves throwing to Will Smith and Austin Barnes. You can just tell all those guys have a great repertoire. And I don't think Scherzer's leaving. And I also think Kershaw could retire a Dodger. Doesn't necessarily mean there's a little team in between that, but
here's my question though, and we may not know the answer to this at this point, but if the Dodgers win the World Series, does Kershaw just say, I'm good with that?
Maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
And the thing, Yeah, and the thing is, guys, about Kershaw, everyone seems to think he wants to go back to play in Texas. I can't see him going to play for the hated Astros or the Trastros or the Asterix, whatever you guys want to call
He's
them.
not going to be a Ranger either.
Or he's not going to be a Ranger either. Like if Atlanta or the Yankees or the Red Sox or one of those teams, the St. Louis Cardinals, that would at least make sense because those are contending teams where they may feel, hey, we're a Clayton Kershaw away in our rotation from doing some serious damage.
Don't forget the
forward.
Angels. I feel like people are just ruling them out. That's still technically Los Angeles, even though it's not.
Right, but
and Mike Trout and Ohtani and Kershaw, that would sell a lot of tickets if they want to overpay him.
It would, but that team is still far off. I could see him going to a contender that's at least got an opportunity to go to a World Series or make a deep run into October over the next few years if he were to leave LA. So I just, that's something to keep in mind. One more thing to keep in mind. There are 6 key free agents, 2 position players, 2 starters, 2 relievers that the Dodgers got to make decisions on this offseason. And in my opinion, you might have enough to bring back 3 or 4 contingent on the Bauer contract situation. I think it's going to be extremely difficult to bring back all 6 unless guys are cool taking pay cuts. But if they end up winning it all and their value is at max peak, they may need to cash in their chips, even if it means going to a lesser organization so that they can get those money bags to, like I said, maximize that value and secure the rest of their career.
Yeah.
Can I just get into some numbers real quick? All right. So the Dodgers payroll this year is $267 million. That is light years beyond the luxury tax. Go to 2022, currently on the books, $150 million. That doesn't include arbitration. So when you factor in that doesn't include arbitration, they're going to be past the luxury tax next year, guaranteed, period. And once you're past the luxury tax, you're going to spend. You are going to spend. So I don't want to hear anybody saying they can't afford to bring guys back. They absolutely can. Because you go to 2023, the number of committed money goes to $107 million. 2024, $30 million. All right, you got Mookie Betts, and that's it. Obviously not including arbitration, but that's just how it goes. So look, the Dodgers are going over the luxury tax next year. I believe in 2023, they will try to be just under it again so they can reset the penalties. But they have the money to do this. They absolutely have the money to sign Kershaw, Seager, and Scherzer, period. I think Kenley Jansen will be the one who is headed out of town, and possibly Chris Taylor.
It's not a question of can. It's a question of will they or won't they? Not
exactly.
Can or that can't. It's will the Guggenheim Group, will Friedman look over at Caston and Magic and Mark Walter and Peter Guber and be like, all right, what are you guys cool with before I start making any moves? And tell me my boundaries here. If this is a basketball court, 90 feet, where's my out of bounds?
Yep.
Absolutely. Speaking of Kenley Jansen, just wanted to throw this in there real quick. Last 15 innings, man has been on a mission. 0.60 ERA, and he's matching that with an 0.60 whip. Kenley Jansen, I say this every time. Like, I don't want to call him the closer, but he's definitely one of the top closers right now for the Dodgers. And it's just nice to have him go out there and not have to sweat your ass off every time he's closing these games out for the Dodgers.
The movement is back, which is great. We saw that the beginning of the season, the velocity was there. He was hitting 97, but his last time out closing a game against the Diamondbacks, I mean, the dude was throwing 93, but the thing was moving. I mean, it had such great movement to it. I'm talking about the cutter, and then he's got a great little breaking ball that not a lot of people talk about. It's really, really tight, and it really, really works. So he has figured it out. Whatever workout program he did in the offseason has really helped him this season. He had a little bit of a hiccup towards the middle part of this season when he blew back-to-back games against the Giants, which was not ideal, not the team you really want to blow games against.
Yep.
And we're paying for it in the standings right now. No one wants to talk about that, but we would be leading the division if we were able to secure a couple more of those really winnable games against the Giants this year. As it stands, the season series was that we won 9 games and lost 10. So I think we could have been better than that. But at any rate, Kenley Jansen's been awesome. and he deserves respect. He deserves the Clayton Kershaw treatment, in my opinion, at this point. What he's shown, the grit he's shown, the domination that he's shown, and the leadership that he's shown on the field is, second to none, really. And hey, if you told me this is what we were going to get this year in the offseason, I would have told you were absolutely crazy. And in fact, I did, because I didn't think Kenley Jansen was a high leverage reliever anymore. And I was proven completely wrong, and I couldn't be happier about it.
Yep.
Mariano Rivera, Trevor Hoffman, Lee Smith, Dennis Eckersley, and when it's all said and done, Kenley Jansen, top 5 closers of all time. Think about that. This is a position where you are here today and gone tomorrow.
Yep.
Unless you're one of those names I just mentioned. The only other guy who's done what Kenley has done over the last 8 or 9 years has been Aroldis Chapman. And if you ask Yankee fans, it's been a roller coaster with him too, to where he has been bounced from his position as closer every now and then. And this is the Cuban Missile. This is a guy who could throw 102, 103 miles per hour. So we've got to appreciate not just what Kenley has done as far as the saves, but how long he has done it for, because the longevity is something that is so rare. Think about this. The Giants won 3 World Series in 5 years. They had 3 different closers in each of those World Series runs. Brian Wilson in 2010, he fizzled out. Sergio Romo in 2012, he got demoted. And then Santiago Casilla in 2014, he was out of the league 2 years later. This is a volatile
How do you even
position.
remember that shit, man? Jesus. Santiago Casilla, Jesus Christ.
That is a good
That's
memory.
a deep cut.
Isn't he, didn't he get busted with a fake name? Isn't he that guy?
I'm not too sure. I think a fake age maybe, but I'm not sure about a fake name.
I'll look into that.
Anyway, so my point is it's a volatile position that is very difficult to have some sort of sustained success. And I could think of many relievers who won a World Series with the team and you never heard from them again. Names like Jason Mott, names like Joel Zumaya. Kent, who was the other guy from the Red Sox?
Even Craig Kimbrell.
Yeah, Keith Folk, Craig Kimbrell.
Like Ken Giles
Heath Bell. Bell was good
Keith
for him.
Bell, Brad Lidge. A lot of these guys who had great runs, even 2, 3, 4 year stretches, which aren't bad, but then they fizzle out either because of inconsistencies or their arms blow out or some sort of issue. So I just hope we appreciate what Kenley Jansen has been able to do. And Jake, just looking at it in the micro view that you had, you took the words right out of my mouth. The breaking ball has not been talked about. That might be the pitch that has saved his career and really saved his season, because the cutter, you flip a coin. Is it going to be a good night or a bad night with the cutter? We don't know, because he's not always able to command it. But now that he's able to go to that curveball and breaking ball a little bit more, he can still get outs and induce soft contact, which allows him to get the final 3 outs of a game and lock down a win for the Dodgers. So hopefully that continues.
Yeah. And no one's really hitting him either. His downfall or his Achilles heel are the walks. And so if he keeps those down, nobody can touch him really.
Yeah. Oh, one more name I should add to the list of great closers. Troy Percival should be on that list as well.
Yes.
Yeah, I was trying to get in there. And, Ken Giles, he was the Astros closer in 2017, and they couldn't wait to get rid of him. Like the moment.
Ken Giles, yeah.
There you go. So it's
Keith Folk. Keith Folk was the name.
And the name I was missing in 2013, Koji Uehara. He was there. He was lights out for the Red Sox when they won it all in 2013. But that's my point, guys, is that here today, gone tomorrow. You could have the best 2-3 months of a season, and then that's it. You completely fizzle out to the point where you're just another rung in the ladder.
Yeah, or if you're Santiago Casilla, you're Jairo Garcia one day, and then you get exposed, and then you become your actual name, which was Santiago Casilla. My memory did not fail me. I just looked it up.
Jansen's been the closer for the Dodgers since 2013. That's a very long time.
Also, Edwin Diaz for the Mets. He was unstoppable with the Mariners, and then as soon as he got put on the Mets, he's been terrible.
Jim Johnson, 51 saves. 51 saves for the 2013 Baltimore Orioles. And what happened with him? Nobody wanted him. He was a disaster.
The Dodgers wanted him, and it backfired big time.
Yeah.
George Sherrill. Remember him?
Yes.
Also
George
Baltimore.
Sherrill with this kind of hat look.
Yeah.
for
He
some
had the
reason.
he had the little Fernando
the
Rodney
flat,
look.
the flat brim.
Yeah.
All right, we're going to kick this show into overdrive. The Dodgers obviously swept the San Diego Padres once again. They now lead the season series 9-7. Each of you just give me one takeaway from that beatdown. Mine is that the Dodgers shut out the Padres twice.
Yes. This is the one thing that came to my mind. Maybe I'll have something in a little bit after David and Chris go, but Trey Turner has done this a couple times this season with the Dodgers. He's basically knocked in runs with his legs by beating a ball out. He did it last night where it was 2 outs, runner at third, and he just basically hit a routine ground ball to the second baseman, but was able to beat it out. And that's crazy to me too, because you have to be extra fast to beat that out coming from the right-handed batter's box as opposed to the left-handed hitter's batter's box. The dude is unbelievable, and he is such a treasure that we have. To be able to create RBIs with your legs is something that not a lot of people can do.
My one takeaway from the Padres getting swept by the Dodgers for the second time in a row is that's why you don't talk shit in April. That's why you don't talk shit in April.
Hungry for more, baby. Hungry for more.
And, my other takeaway is maybe they aren't built for a 162 game season. Maybe they were built for the 60 game season. How about that?
It's not a
How
maybe.
about it?
It's a for sure. We could talk about how they traded Eric Lauer away, who was their one Dodger stopper, and he's having a better season overall than Blake Snell, who they gave up one of their top pitching prospects for. Yu Darvish has been an absolute disgrace to the entire sport ever since they took away the sticky stuff. His ERA is in the 7s, I want to say, and he's like 2-9.
How about that Mariners trade where they got Nola and Austin Adams by giving up Ty France, Taylor Trammell, and a couple other guys? Awful. Austin Adams, all he does is throw sliders and hit batters. And Austin Nola is the definition of mediocre.
And don't forget, Renfroe and Margot are probably going to go to the playoffs. Renfroe is in Boston. Margot has been a really solid presence in Tampa Bay. So yeah, there's that aspect of it. And I think they have been deflated, and I could be wrong on this. They have been deflated and moving backwards since the Scherzer trade that was announced and then got pulled back. They have not been the same since then. They ended up striking out the rest of that trade deadline. I think the biggest name that they got was Jake Marisnick. I mean,
Adam Frazier
and Adam Frazier. No, but they got Frazier before that. I'm talking about actually at the deadline, actual deadline. So they have just kind of been moving in a backwards direction since then. They look lifeless. I agree. The 2 shutouts that they had, Kevin, that was a great point. Also, too, the biggest takeaway that I had, they lost 2 key components that could end up hurting them from getting into that second wild card spot. They lost Jake Cronenworth, who has a fractured hand, and Blake Snell with the groin injury. Those have been 2 of their bright spots, especially the second half of the season. And now they may not have them, going into October. So that was a big takeaway for me.
The other name that I wanted to throw in that mix of just bad trades, they traded Cal Quantrill, who was a pretty solid right-handed arm.
For Clevenger.
137 innings pitched this season. He has a 2.89 ERA. They traded him for Mike Clevenger, who was not good in my opinion, who blew out his arm in like 1 start for the Padres, and they didn't even get him this entire season. And Lamont has been hurt the entire year. They don't have a 5-man rotation. They're doing bullpen games and mixing that with Jake Arrieta and Vince Velasquez, who they just picked up.
Who even if they make the playoffs, can't be on their roster.
Yeah, a couple of Philly leftovers. So they went sniffing through the garbage bins of Philadelphia to get those 2 guys out.
Yes, so did we, and Cole Hamels didn't work out. So there's that.
Yeah, but you know what though?
Danny Duffy, man.
I'm not saying there's anything wrong with blue binning. We know that sometimes there could be an item of gold in the clearance bin. I see Max Muncy and see Chris Taylor. Hell, even see Phil Bickford as far as that goes. But yeah, it hasn't really worked out. But they've done it out of desperation because it's like we don't have enough arms to fill out a rotation. We're not going to. I mean, how many bullpen games can we do a week over here?
I have a quick question about Phil Bickford. Are we a little worried about him? I mean, he's been a little vulnerable last few outings, giving up some runs. I'm not sure if we should be worried about that, or is it just kind of a blip on the screen?
I'm not. I mean, this is a guy who was pitching, frankly, out of his mind for a good portion of the season, a 2-month stretch where I don't even remember him giving up a run. So frankly, I think this is just a little bit, two factors, more of a regression to reality and a little bit overuse. I think that's what it comes down to. I'd love to see them, limit his appearances as best they can down this next 2-week stretch. But in terms of your question, no, I'm not concerned. If you want to, bump Vesia above him in the high leverage order, I think they're both hand in hand right now already. Then be my guest. But when the game's on the line, you're going to see Treinen and Jansen as the two guys, period.
David, I couldn't agree with you more. I'm just going to call it two different things. I'm going to call it fatigue and adjustments.
Yeah.
He's worked a lot, probably more so than any other Dodger reliever this season. And he's done that because Knebel and Kelly missed significant time. So maybe the velocity isn't quite there. Maybe the command isn't quite there. And the reason why I say adjustments, opponents have now seen enough of Phil Bickford where guess what? They're game planning for him. Similar to what we saw early in the season with Victor Gonzalez. Remember, Victor Gonzalez destroyed everybody last year, including in October. Guess what? Now we've got game film. Now we are game planning for you. We know what you're going to throw. We know how you're going to throw it, and we are going to make life difficult on you. So in order for Bickford, maybe taking a few more days off between outings would help, and also tweaking some of the adjustments to make up for the adjustments that have been made against him. So you're adjusting against the adjustments, if that makes sense.
Yep.
Yeah, 4 home runs over his last 10 innings.
Yeah.
Here's the big question that was waiting for from Josh the Flip. At this point in the season, with how everyone has played, re-signing Corey Seager is a must, right? So I said Max Scherzer was number 1. Well, my number 2 is Corey Seager. I've adjusted the number in my head a little bit. I think it's going to take 8 years, a little over $30 million annually to keep him. I think that injury did hurt his market value just a little bit. And honestly,
so what is that? Like 240 million?
240-ish.
Okay.
And 2 reasons being, 1, I think the Lindor contract is making teams hesitate on these 10-year deals. That's been pretty bad for the Mets. And 2, frankly, most teams around Major League Baseball are cheap. So I'm having a hard time imagining what teams are going to want to pay a shortstop when you have cheaper guys out there, such as Carlos Correa, Marcus Semien, even maybe Javi Baez. Yep. Thank you that was the one I was trying to think of. And maybe even Trevor Story to an extent. And then other teams will have guys in their farm system, such as the Arizona Diamondbacks. So that is a far cheaper route. So, the Yankees are obviously a threat. I don't know if I see that. But anyways, back to why Corey Seager is a must sign. The Dodgers are now 32-12 since he made his return from the IL. Now, obviously, that's not all Corey Seager. It's a team sport. But before Seager's return off the IL, this team was just 20 games above 500. Now they're 41 games above 500. Late and close, he's an OPS slightly over 1,000. With runners in scoring position, 348 batting average. Chris called Turner the soul. You called Muncy, what was it you called Muncy?
Stabilizing force.
Stabilizing force. Corey Seager is the anchor of this team. When you need that guy to drive in the clutch runs, Corey Seager is usually that guy. Jake already referred to what he did in the postseason. Seager, for the most part, when healthy, has been clutch this season. Overall in the season, he's a 282 batting average, 374 on base. The power obviously isn't there. Like last year, he only has 9 home runs. But this Dodgers team, when you have Seager in the lineup, and now he's a positive defender on defense in some statistical categories, such as defensive runs saved, you got to bring him back there because this consistency, he's not a streaky hitter. For the most part, he's always consistent. He doesn't have those hot and cold, dry spells. You know what you're getting from Corey Seager, and just throw him the money.
Yeah, and I also like where they've put him in the batting order too, which is right in the middle. It's either 5th or 4th. I think that's a really good spot for him. Last year he was hitting 2nd consistently, and that really worked with him and Mookie Betts at the top. But I almost want to give Seager more of an opportunity to have more runners on base than just the one ahead of him. So if you're getting Mookie on base, if you're getting Trey Turner on base, that's 2 guys right there. Muncy too can get on base too via a walk. you put the guys on base for the guys after them that typically do drive in the runs with runners in scoring position. And who are your best hitters in those situations? It's Turner, it's Seager, and it's Will Smith. That's a perfect recipe for success, and we've seen that lineup being rolled out time and time again, and I love it. And I'm on board with you, Kevin. I think Corey Seager has proven that he not only can be that clutch bat, but he can stay on the field if barring any freak accident like getting hit on the hand or something like that. But he is a guy I wouldn't mind spending a ton of money on. Who knows what's going to happen in terms of his injuries, or if he becomes injury prone after he signs the contract. But having him, right now, I would go with Seager over Bellinger. Maybe that's recency bias, but just seeing what Corey Seager can do on a consistent basis. Now, Cody Bellinger has been clutch, but not as consistently as Seager.
Yeah, it's a great point. And my theory on Seager goes a little deeper. It's not just about keeping him for the meantime. I'm also thinking about the future of third base. And when you look at guys at Seager's size, A-Rod, Machado, Cal Ripken, they've eventually made that move to third base. And given the fact that Justin Turner may not be here after this contract expires, he may retire, or he may end up moving to a bench role. I theoretically would like to see Corey Seager spend first part of that contract back at shortstop, but then eventually make that move to third base. And who knows, maybe that allows you to keep Trey Turner in Dodger blue and put him at his more natural position at shortstop. So just something.
And then you have Lux at second.
Potentially. Yeah. Or you keep Chris Taylor there or somebody else through the year. Second and left have kind of been the two revolving door platoon positions for the Dodgers. So, but yeah, the Yankees, Kevin, you pointed them out. They could be the one team that could give the Dodgers a run for their money. We know that they would love to have another left-handed power bat in the middle of that order with the short porch over in right field. Not to mention they can move LeMahieu over at first base, and it allows them to keep Gleyber Torres over at second. We don't know. And it's such a deep shortstop market. It's hard to know who out of those four guys is going to lead that market, because not even just the shortstop market, those four guys are probably going to lead the free agency class altogether in the winter of 2021. So I think Seager, it would be tough to see him leave Dodger blue, but I genuinely think he wants to test out free agency. And if the Dodgers are able to say, hey, this is what we're willing to offer you, if you're willing to work with us, we'd love to keep you here, but you got to do what's best for you.
Yeah.
We'll see what happens. We'll see what happens, man.
It's also hard to find guys that are good batters, good bats with 2 outs. Seager's been that guy. He's a 281 batting average with 2 outs.
Right. Also, it looks like the Dodgers are going to be a game back in a minute. The Padres are up 7-2 in the 8th.
Awesome. Yep. You love to see it.
Padres got 3 left with Cincinnati, then 3 at Colorado, then 3 at Arizona. And then you come home for the final 6 games of the year, 3 versus San Diego and 3 versus Milwaukee. Those first 3 series are when they need to make their move. You got 9 games versus very beatable teams. If you can win 8 of them, you're going to take the division. That's my prediction. The Giants, they lost 2 in a row, but I'm not anticipating a complete collapse. They do play the Braves this weekend, so I would expect at least 1 loss. So if the Dodgers can sweep the Reds, you're gonna have a tie, in my opinion, for the division starting next week, when you go to Colorado and Arizona. So these are the 9 games where if you want the division, it's now.
And also too, I just want to point this out about that series against the Red. This is against the Cincinnati Reds. They haven't seen them, I think, since May. Yep. So this is a great situation 100%. Because this could be a potential wild card game matchup. So now you get to see an accurate portrayal of what the Cincinnati Reds could look like in a 1-game playoff as far as hitters and pitching. So you can kind of come up with a strategy, what works and what doesn't work. So I think this series could not have come at a better time for LA and Cincy.
And also, are we seeing starters are Castillo, Gray, and Miley. So whoever is gonna one of those guys, if we play in the wild card game, will be pitching or Wade 2.
Wade Miley, the Dodger killer. Don't forget 2018 NLCS.
Yeah,
that's true. On the flip side, Buehler, Scherzer, and Kershaw will be going for the Dodgers. The Reds are 1 game back of the St. Louis Cardinals for that second wild card spot. So the Reds definitely are going to be scrapping their way because they want to make the playoffs. I don't really have a lot of intel on the Reds. I don't follow them very deeply. But one bat that I always am inclined to follow is Joey Votto. I just love that guy. Rejuvenation season for him. He's got 30 home runs on the season. But over the last month stretch or so, he's been kind of cold with a 198 batting average. Nick Castellanos is a left-handed killer. He hits a lot of home runs and has a high batting average as well. And then Jesse Winker, who was off to a red-hot start. I think he is hurt or something. I don't know if we're seeing him or not. But, yeah, this Reds team.
Jonathan India is going to be a rookie of the year.
Yeah, Eugenio Suarez. You can't sleep on him. He's really solid. So they just have a really good team. David Bell's done a nice job over there since taking over.
Yes. So, yeah, that's all I got today. Any final thoughts or any other segments you guys wanted to cover real quick? All right.
Good. I think I said what I needed to say. If they want the division, it's these next 9 games or bust.
Yeah, I think a 7-2 road trip, 6-3 road trip would be nice. Just keep taking 2 out of 3. If you can get the occasional sweep, great. Just don't go into Colorado and drop 2 out of 3. If you sweep Cincinnati and you drop 2 out of 3 to Arizona or Colorado, come on, man.
Yes.
Yeah.
All right.
You need 8 out of 9, gentlemen. You need 8 out of 9.
Dave getting greedy. I love it.
1 game back, still enough time to catch the Giants. The Padres and Giants still will have 6 more games, and the Padres are right there in the wild card hunt as well. 2-2. I wish the Padres won that series, but I'll take it considering they started off 0-2. Thank you, San Diego. You're finally making yourself useful. Make sure to go ahead, Jake.
I was just going to say one final thing. If we don't take 8 out of the next 9, I don't want to be in a situation where we have to have a must-win series versus the Brewers. Even though I think the Dodgers can beat the Brewers are really tough, and they've got an even better rotation than the Reds do.
Right. I still think they'll be resting their starters for that series, but
it's possible, yeah.
But yeah, we don't have to worry about that yet. Hot take. I'd rather just play the wild card game itself as opposed to playing a game 163 with the risk of then going into a wild card game after that. I'd rather just get it over with, but that's my hot take there. Thank you guys for listening. Make sure to subscribe to the Incline Dodgers wherever you get your podcasts. Follow us on Twitter. Make sure to follow Chris Camello. All our descriptions and Twitter handles will be below. Chris, thank you so much for joining us today on the Incline. Hope you had a blast. Why don't you close out the show?
Thank you guys so much. It's always a pleasure to be on. Talking Dodgers and talking baseball. It's fun, man. I feel like I'm right at home over here. It's not even work. This was like me talking to my buddies over here. So appreciate the time. Thanks again for having me. Be sure to follow me on Twitter at Chris_Camello, on Instagram, CCamello1, Facebook, Camello's Corner by Chris Camello, and download and follow all my podcasts on all major streaming platforms. Thanks again, fellas.
All right. Your Dodgers are red hot right now. 6 games in a row that they've won. I'm signing out here from Hawaii.
Aloha.
Aloha. Thanks, Kevin. Aloha, dude.
Mahalo.